Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. To some and peace out to the rest of you. Hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. And this is more about how I select my coverage. First, I'm going to apologize to those who have the condition of dwarfism or midgets, and also to those who have married them, because it might seem like I just discriminate, when in fact, in my prior upload about practicing, in my prior upload reacting to Raul of Please Act Right's video, I was mostly talking about how we're conditioned and how women in these societies are scrutinized by the men, but they can throw that aside when it comes down to us black men. I'm one of those guys. If you are genuinely attracted to a man or a woman that is a midget, then that's genuine. I don't knock marrying that person, and I'm talking about not marrying in front of the state for anybody, but marrying according to your faith tradition. I don't knock that. What I do knock is when women that are highly scrutinized in one context turn around and find all this confidence with us simply because we're black and we're supposed to just like anything. And I don't like it when women of our race do it, and I don't like it when women of other races do the same thing. Now, it is different when a woman that is dark-skinned for her people actually likes us and also feels some sense of confidence and normal self-worth with us. That's different, and even then there's a thin line. Because they're scrutinized for being dark-skinned amongst their own people. I still don't want them coming around us looking for a black man unless that black man is their choice. That's why I get sensitive. I don't like the notion of you black men only being able to be with someone, even if it's someone that you like, just because other men don't want her. I'm sensitive to that. It's not fair to you. And I learned that judgment from women, but damn it, it works. I lost a subscriber, and I probably deserved it. For other reasons. Now, as for me opening up this recording, I open this up first. Well, I open it up for a few reasons, but let me start by telling you, number one, check out Buy Me a Coffee to see some updates now regarding the Professor Blees series. Got another funny one for you. These Arab students are on some sugar knit for real, and you keep thinking it's just you. Nope. These women have the goals to get good jobs and not need men financially, and these men are out here defining their manhood by being readily available to their sisters and moms' beck and call, and never locking themselves away from distractions and interruptions that add up and hold them back. So if they're studying and they cannot be reached by their needy ass sister or their needy ass mom, who ain't paying for the education if there's anything to pay, then when they finally get done studying and their mom or their sister jumps on their ass, they think they weren't a man. I kid you not. And that's what they think. So consequently, they always have a reason to not be focused on their task until the completion of it. I got one student whose English is broken as hell, and this is the last week of class. I'm sitting in class right now. I'm supposed to be teaching. Not one of these ninjas has showed up in 6 minutes from now. It's too late for them. He can't afford to miss class this week, but his mom got sick at the worst possible time for him to fix his speaking and writing. So I frankly don't even believe him. How does she get sick now after I've told the students that no matter what the excuses are, they either got to correct their English or they got to repeat this class next semester and not go into the core curriculum? If I told him this, how does your mom get sick when your English is up fucked and you're down to the last week? And is she telling you don't go study? Is that what she's saying? Because if she says that to you, even if she's sick, if she says that to you, she's holding you back. Your dad already got a job. How about your dad take care of her and then you take care of her when you're done studying? How about that? No, it's the smart kid, the smart son that they asked to do this stuff. I'm telling you that this stuff is global, as BGS just said, and I want to give a shout out to him for pointing that out. DNA testing now, paternity testing is about to go global. It's illegal here in Saudi, I found out. That's illegal. Illegal. I did not realize this, but that kind of test is illegal. So I'm going to tell you now what's going on. Now, these women don't want to get caught in a scandal like that. That's true. But so I don't think that most of them are really out here cheating. But I'm going to tell you now that you do have some cheaters. And they're going to have their clubs and things like that because it's illegal. Wait until it becomes legal. Wait until it becomes an option. Because see, if there are ways to ascertain paternity, but those ways are now made illegal when they exist, now that is a reason for men. I'm not even a scholar. And we Muslims are not supposed to get vasectomies without a medically valid reason. Well, I'm telling Muslim men right now, if you live in a jurisdiction where you can get a paternity test, but it's just illegal, go ahead and get that vasectomy. Get the reversible one. Marry women that can't conceive or don't want kids. And when people ask you what's going on, just say, we're not allowed to. We have the means to ascertain paternity. We're just not allowed to do it. That's my answer. And I'll tell you now, even where I live, even here where I live, it is not worth it to go up to these women's homes, knock on their door, talk to their dad and their brother, get scrutinized, and try to meet their approval and her approval so you can pay her bills. It ain't worth it. These men will tell you that it's not worth all of that. They're spoiled. These women are not mean. I'm telling you now, they're not mean. They're very polite, but they're spoiled as hell. Women are playing games all over the world, and I'm sitting up here saying to you, I don't fib a guck how many of them are doing it. I don't fib a guck how widespread it is. They don't tolerate it when men do it, so God damn it, it's wrong when they do it. And BGS was right about one thing. There's no complete control over women in any part of the globe, and I don't even demand that there be a complete control over women unless there is a complete control over men, or unless there's an emergency. But we're now dealing with a situation in which these silent emergencies are emerging because there is no complete control over the women, but there is over the men. No, shuck that fit. You can ask certain women that are honest. If paternity testing is illegal in a particular country and the women know that, what the hell are they going to do? Especially in today's time with free access to social media and the worst parts of it. Oh, all that ratchet stuff that you can see over there in the States, yeah, they can see it here on TikTok. Maybe not other platforms, but damn sure TikTok and Snapchat, that ain't nothing. These women are here holding their men back, and I'm seeing more and more of it as time goes on. It becomes clearer and clearer and clearer to me. And these men don't do a good job of making that part difficult. Oh, they make that stuff easy. Meanwhile, from the tops of the buildings here, we can see over into the ladies' campus of the same university. And I'm letting you know now, bruh, those women are showing up. They're having meetings and symposiums and stuff in one of the exhibition centers that happens to be on the male side of the campus, next to the library. And these women are in there with these presentations. And as much as they can be lazy and entitled and begging for marks that they didn't deserve, they still don't just take all of this as a joke. And the lady teachers have told me, well, the lady teachers have said that their female students will say to them, this is my freedom. So, of course, I'm going to come to the university. I'm like, this is your freedom. You already got freedom. You can drive. You can travel internationally without a male. You're allowed to do all these things. You just can't check into a hotel room with a guy that's not related to you or your husband. Those are the things you can't do, but y'all find ways to get that ding-a-ling if you really want some. Anyway, the other reason I open this up is to introduce some info here that I will explain only in the Jet Black Air Lounge later on, but I'll introduce it to you right now. This regards repatriation. Right now, there's talk about how in Ghana, African Americans are losing land after they buy the land. I'm going to tell you two things I'll explain in the Jet Black Air Lounge, but I'll introduce you to them here. I'm going to give you a snippet. One, African Americans aren't being targeted. Number two, there is a solution and it's very easy, and you're going to wonder why the hell this didn't make the rounds when you do go into the Jet Black Air Lounge and subscribe. I'll let this be available in business and first class, so even if you only subscribe for $5 a month, you'll be able to hear this. You're welcome. I said you're welcome. Should have made this available only in the first class. But in any case, go there to find that explanation. It is a big help. It'll be in the. It'll probably be part 3 of the FBA to FBAA series there. Main reason I opened up this recorder is to discuss two things right quick. Someone asked if I was going to talk about Shiloh Hendricks and what she did, calling that child the N-word and then raising all this money for that. And I initially said I wasn't going to because that's just American culture acting the way it's designed to act. It's in other words, it's white folk being white or white people being whites as a collective, not individually. But that ties in also to black fatigue. Black fatigue is white folk shit. They just don't want to hear about what the F their ancestors did. That's what the issue is with them. They don't want to hear about what it is that their ancestors did and how their society is trash anyway. No, their collective societies are trash. They're well organized. They're well funded at our expense, but they're trash. By the time they're done doing what they do to any part of the planet, people got an inferiority complex a mile wide and a mile long. Worshiping white folk, then they extend from that to worshiping whoever the oppressor is. And then before you know it, you got folks like Elon Musk saying empathy is our weakness. Empathy is your weakness. Then why did you found Doge? Department of Government Efficiency. What the F was that about? Who do you empathize with if you're trying to save the government money? So you empathize with governments, but you don't empathize with people. Just governments. And in the same Trump administration that wants to kick out every immigrant that ain't white, just let in and welcomed a bunch of white immigrants from South Africa from a genocide that's not even happening and is long overdue. Not even a genocide, but a land reclamation that's only being discussed in South Africa, never being implemented because they know what's coming down the pike after that. They'll be turned into Zimbabwe by outside forces. So they never really implemented it. But because of the idea, and Julius Malema saying that it is correct, Trump offered this in his first time. Now he's carrying it out. A chartered flight paid for by the United States government landed in Dulles, and the Trump admin welcomed them. Trump would have done it, but he's over here in Saudi. People ask me, what you think about Trump being in Saudi? And I straight told them, well, we're not in Riyadh, so that's a good thing. But you know what? Please just fuck the shuck up. Don't tell him I'm here. No, don't tell him I'm here because I don't want any of his staff knowing that I'm here. I don't want them knowing because I come from a blacktivist family. I'm sure they got dossiers on my parents. And me. I know they got one on me. I've been under investigation before. I've known people, been in communication with people, and all of a sudden they gone and they arrested. One of them thinks I had something to do with it. He won't talk to me to this day, and I don't blame him. But I didn't have anything to do with him being arrested. I had nothing to do with that at all. I had nothing to do with any laws being broken, and I don't think he did. But the point is that I know white folk. I know who they are. Been understood. And I even said in my more recent upload about white folk and their nostalgia, that they long for days that never existed and they want those days back. They're looking for those days to come back, and those days ain't here. And they weren't even in the past the way that they remember them. They want to go back to the time depicted in Sinners. That was great for them. They're looking for that. Even though during those times depicted in Sinners, most of them also had life hard. They didn't have it easy. Sucked for them. It exacerbated a lot of the racist sentiment of them, because coming up a place like Clarksdale, Mississippi was really bad if you were a poor white. Man, it sucked. And they didn't have a good sense God gave them. So, you grew up as a poor white, you might have to run from your uncle. Well, hey, you might have to run from your own dad, because, yeah, those types of things were a problem back then. So I'm telling you, man, they longed for days that actually were really, really, really bad to them, really sucked for them. Shiloh Hendricks is just a reminder of a time when they could do this stuff and get used to it. And now she's collected on it. She's been able to cash in on her hatred. That's what America represents to me. That's why it is that I don't want to sit up and talk about cooperating within the system that they set up. Undermining it, hey, I'm all for it if you can do it. I don't know how, and I'm not trying to. But if you can, hey, more power to you. May Allah protect you from whatever consequences. I have no respect for the shit that white folks consider to be legitimate. I ain't got it. None. When Christians that are not white sit up and say, well, Muslims and Christians are actually worshiping the same God, but we got different religions, I look at them and say, yeah, for the most part, we don't believe everything about God y'all do and vice versa, but we do believe that God revealed to you certain things and they got corrupted. Yeah, that makes sense. When white people say, well, we worship the same God, I'm like, no, the F we don't. No, you don't. Because your God is just as white supremacist as you are. No, your God is not God. Your God is a stubborn old white goat with a bad temper. Your God's got double standards and doesn't even realize he has them. Your God can be subconsciously brainwashed. And quiet as it's kept, sometimes I even say that to white Arabs who have a white mind. We worship the same God. No, nigga, you think God is racist. I don't. How are we worshiping the same God? You don't think racism is racism, but you think God has the same views of race and color that your dumb backwards Bedouin ass has. You think he ain't no smarter than you. How do we worship the same God? Shiloh, ironically, a Semitic name, cashed in on hatred against a kid. I don't know what the kid did. But the thing is, she didn't go to calling him anything. She didn't call him retarded. She didn't call him mentally disabled. None of these things. And he might actually have autism from what I heard. None of that. And now people want to blame the guy that did the recording. And that guy, he's what some of you guys would call a tether. Because he's Somali. He saw this and he was like, oh, hell no, because he knew this is some racist stuff going on. You didn't have to be Somali for him to kick, for his defense to kick in. A lot of Somalis, when you get to talking to them, will tell you honestly what they know about racism, and they'll tell you honestly what they don't know about racism. They disagree with many of us on many things, and I get that, but most of them don't dehumanize us. That's actually a very rare thing. My mother-in-law doesn't speak English. If she were going to dehumanize African Americans, she'd dehumanize me. Yes, even with the way I look. Because I never let the family forget for 1 second that I'm African American. One of my wife's cousins said something about one of the other cousins that was also in an interracial marriage. And I stopped. I said, ma'am, that's fine. But your cousin and I here are not in an interracial marriage. We're in an intercultural marriage. No, we're the same race. I'm West African. She's East African. Now, granted, there are significant differences in DNA, but the point I'm making is that we black, and she agreed. She was like, oh, she heard me talking at that point. She said, got it. Sorry about that. And she took a second look at my nose and lips. And she said, yep, you're West African. Cool. So I tell her, I tell, meaning I tell my mother-in-law at times when we do talk, and usually my wife translates if she doesn't get it. I'll tell her at times that I know I don't look up to white folks. I don't even look across at them as a society. I look at them as individuals, and that's where they can be good, bad, or anything else. But when I'm looking at their society and their collective, they are not morally equal to her people or mine. No, they effing suck. I'm talking about that Western European. They are trash. And that's why they did what they did to everybody all over the planet, including her nation. And if Ethiopia had been ruled by some Muslims at that time, they would not have allowed, because they would have never quit going into Ethiopia to invade until they won. They would have never accepted defeat. And if Ethiopia had been ruled by Muslims at that same time that they were trying, the two times that Italy tried to take them over to, then simply put, no one else would have ever supported them. Would not have done it. I straight told her that's what it was. So it absolutely has become the white man's religion, whereas Islam is not. And when a backwards Bedouin wants to turn it into the white Arab's religion, they don't succeed. They've tried. I mean, they don't even try to do it. They just kind of assume that that's what it is because they don't have a view outside of themselves, and they fail. They get checked every time. They tried it with Ibrahim Traore. He turned down an offer from here to build 200 mosques. He said, thank you for the offer. And I assume you mean well, but we got to work on factories and hospitals first. We got mosques. He did the right thing. He did exactly what was needed to be done. Infrastructure. What you do is you do like this nation does for its own. You put a small mosque right next to the hospital, right next to the factory, so that when the prayer times come, the Muslims go in, say their prayers, go back out to work. That's how you do it. That's how they do it here. They don't put a big old mosque everywhere. No, they got a very nice looking, very clean mosque on the grounds of the hospitals and the university campuses and things like that. They're not very big. They're not elaborate. They're nice to look at. They are clean. They're well maintained. That's what's important. That's what counts. And that is how you do it. That's why they're supporting Ibrahim Traore even in Kingston, Jamaica. So when it comes down to Shiloh Hendricks, I didn't cover her much because, well, I mean, there's no surprise there. I wanted one of you to step up and say, wait a minute, you mean to tell me that somebody that some of us would have called a tether was the one that video recorded her? And at the same time this happened, all her people came out and started supporting her and sending her so much that at this point, she's about to roll in money for a good year, maybe 2 years. Is that what the work we're doing? Well, dang, here's what I'll do. I'll tell a little white kid to put on a costume, pretend to be someone else. I'll call that kid a cracker, and then I'll see how much money I can raise. You know goddamn well I will be bleeding money. That's what America is, and that's why I didn't cover it. It's no surprise. That's exactly what the hell was going to happen. It's like Geronimo Yanez. He shoots Philando Castile. He gets let off the hook. Nothing happens. Mohammed Noodle shoots to defend his partner. His partner says, well, I didn't feel in danger, and Mohammed Noodle gets sentenced, and even though he's out now, the fact that he was convicted and sentenced is a mother effing word problem right there in and of itself. And then to make matters worse, the media misreports the woman's name and her marital status to make it sound like she's already somebody's wife. No, she was engaged. That's what the F it was. Her last name had not changed yet. And then on top of that, it took massive protest in order for whatever that guy's name is that killed George Floyd to be sentenced, to be convicted, to be arrested, then convicted, then sentenced. That's America for you. It takes violence or the threat of it for her to do something that is right for a change, for her legal system to do that. And white folk can't stand that. And so they go and support any of their own that are bold enough to, and then they want to claim stuff about black fatigue. Man, damn them. We black folks have two kinds of fatigue: white fatigue, white adjacent fatigue, and NHF, nigger habits fatigue. Other reason to open up this is to tell you something about that statue in New York that everyone is out here arguing about, which whites have said is aggravating their black fatigue. And some of us are saying the same damn thing. No, the fatigue we feel is not black fatigue, it's nigger habits fatigue. First off, the sculptor that designed her did not design her to look any particular way in terms of her mood. The sculptor has a bunch of other sculptures in which he depicts black folks going about their daily routines like anybody else. A lot of times with no expression. They're looking at the phones, standing. She looks like, to me, she looks the way that people look when they're standing on a subway platform waiting on a train to come in, or at a bus stop looking at a bus rolling down the road up to the stop. Her expression to me seems to be very neutral. She is out of shape. I ain't tripping about the clothes so much. And the sculptor didn't really design her specifically to be shown in Times Square for that reason. The sculptor just did he did this sculpture as part of a series of sculptures. You look at his other statues. I forgot his name, and I'm sorry about that. But if you look at his other statues, and some of y'all want to say, well, you know, Jet Black, you be on something else because you got this pale Arabs religion. Look, we got a solution for that. For us, making statues of what is otherwise living is not even a part of it. We're not even supposed to be doing that. A bust because that part of the body doesn't live on its own is one thing. 3D statues that are not meant to imitate that which is alive, they're allowed, but we're not supposed to be making statues of, full-figured, intact statues of something that would otherwise be alive. We aren't to do that. So for us, it's non sequitur. We already got that. Crimson Cure didn't go into that much. And some of you say, well, didn't Saddam Hussein have statues of himself everywhere you look? Don't use him as an example of how we're supposed to practice. Don't do that. He would have been taken out long before that if he was. He would have been done in if that was the case. He wouldn't have lasted as long as he did in power if he had been governing the way that a Muslim's supposed to govern. That's just how it works. Well, the issue, though, is that sisters read facial expressions all the time. And then sometimes people do this for comic relief and memes and things like that. But, sisters really do this thing of trying to read people, look at you with the third eye, and you get sick of this mess. I can see this, I can see that. And sisters on the continent don't be much different. Well, I put it like Southern Nigerian sisters don't be much different. And then you take a Southern Nigerian who was raised in the West. Oh my God, dear Lord, you'll never be done then. Whether it's the Holy Spirit or some deity that their tribe didn't even worship ever in history, it'd be the same thing. They just read facial expressions and think they can see all kinds of secrets. I mean, you know how many sisters think I beat women, but then they think I can't beat a woman? I mean, which one is it? I can't beat women or I beat women? Make up your goddamn mind. But yeah, you know how many sisters are like, oh, I think he 9AY. He don't never have a girlfriend. It was Atlanta. Most guys never had girlfriends because women would sit up saying that if a man's single, something wrong with him. It's been like that. The problem is that they're doing this now, and so some of them are saying, "Man, I can't stand that statue," and others are sitting up saying, "No, she represent me. She looks like somebody I know." Well, the statue was designed to look familiar, but I mean, goddamn, yeah, she big and burly and average size. Wait, is she big or she average? They're arguing about stuff because the statue. So if you look at the statue in and of itself, it's so neutral that instead of them saying how neutral it is, they got to throw interpretations into it. And unfortunately, brothers who were raised by these women have followed into this and start reading facial expressions where there are none. And Edward Allen Anderson was right about how we're going to have to start separating ourselves from men that will not begin to question the way that women think. We got to start doing that. We don't really have a choice. We have to start questioning ourselves and how we're trained to think, and we got to start questioning ourselves in terms of how these ladies think. Will we trained to think like them? Okay, well, does that actually work? Has that helped us out? No? Okay, shuck that fit. Because I'm telling you now, I don't care how the West does it. The fact is, men around the planet will start looking at the ways that women are behaving, especially as these women start imitating the Westernicians, and men will start saying, wait a minute, even when these women were traditional, why the F did we go and ask them for marriage? We got to pay the damn bills. We got to do and build and maintain and fix and all this other stuff. And they don't listen and they're hard headed and they vex us and we don't do this to them. Why the F do we got to go and ask them to marry us and then go talk to their dad and their brother? Men will start saying, you know what? Shuck that fit. And instead they'll go to the dad and the brother and they'll say, this is what's going to happen. Dad, you already married. But I need to holler at your son right quick. Listen, bro, this is what's going on. We men are not going around asking for marriage anymore. Dad jumps in. Why the hell not? In my day, fuck your day. Y'all was stupid. You weren't the first generation to be that goddamn dumb, but we're gonna make y'all the last generation to be that goddamn stupid. You and my dad alike did some of the dumbest shit we could have possibly done. Fuck we look like, pardon my French, fuck we look like going, knocking on doors, asking for you to scrutinize us to get married to your daughter, but then all the responsibility of marriage is on us. What she got to do? If she's traditional, what does she have to do that actually equals the burden of what I must do? I'm supposed to go and chase down and pursue and convince her to agree to be my extra bill for the rest of life and then convince you to let me take on that extra bill so that you don't have to? Miss me with that mess. But don't you want kids? I like kids, but you know what? If I don't have them, I can live for myself. I can either live for a kid I have or I can live for myself. And here's the other thing. Since now we can verify paternity, if we have the means to do it, what are you going to feel like when I say, let's verify that these are my kids? So you're going to take it as a personal insult against her? No, not at all. But that's how you're going to take it. That's the issue with this. Sick of this, man. Men are going to start saying, when men do wise up, they'll start saying, even when they're traditional, why should we do that? Men will start looking and saying, wait a minute, places where we have to pay the dowry, okay, fine. You come after us. You want all this dowry. You need to be bringing your dad and your brothers to my door to talk about marriage if you want all this for a goddamn dowry. I came to your door and now you're going to tell me to bring all of this? Do you go and pursue the men that have this kind of money? What I look like pursuing? Daddy, this man crazy. No, I'm very logical and sane. Absolutely. I remember when I was teaching a class of men and women back in Riyadh, and this is before my son met the lady to whom he's engaged. And I talked to one of the students, and no, she wasn't black. Was not. I talked to her about marriage. I said, now, what kind of men you like? Now, I wasn't asking her for myself, obviously. She said, first thing she said, and she's a good person overall, a little stubborn. She said, I like money. I said, okay, ma'am, I want to tell you now straight up. I already advised my son that if he has money, he's not supposed to disclose that early on. I understand this. I mean, you can like money, but if he has money, he can marry someone else that likes money too, and you can't say nothing about it. I mean, after all, it's money. That's why I get sick and tired of sisters talking about why buy the cow when you can get the milk for free. So, bitch, you comparing yourself to a cow? That's how you know that women came up with that saying. They wouldn't say it if a man came up with that. They would say, oh, you comparing me to a cow now? Fuck you, nigga. That's what they would say if a man came up with that. But they're sitting up and saying, buy the cow. Oh, so now you're comparing yourself to a cow I have to buy, but I cannot own. Because if I buy a cow, I actually own the cow and its milk. You want me to do is buy you, but not own you. You want me to buy you, then tell you free. Why the F would I do that? I buy you, but you free to just walk off with somebody else and take the money with you and then spend it on that ninja. That's what sisters want. They're not talking about buying a cow and you get the milk for free because of chastity. That's not what I've told you about this. That's not why they talk that stuff. They're talking that stuff for the sake of being difficult. And so therefore, whenever they go scale back on the difficulty, you feel grateful. And when the right thing to do is to sit up and say, bitch, you better not be difficult at all because I had to buy the cow. Since I had to buy the cow, I own you and I own that goddamn milk. Mess around and say no. Who the hell you think you telling no to? It's not your right to sit up and say no without a really, really valid reason. Can't change your mind? Fine. Give me my goddamn money back. You'll be free then. Buy yourself back. When we let them raise us like this, these are the mentalities from which we must then break free later on. And you can tell that we've been trained to think by mama because we were caught up in this argument about that damn statue. It's an effing statue. What you gonna do? Breathe life into it and make it real? And that leads into the next thing. What that statue is taken, it's interpreted to be, is a glorification of attitude. It is glorifying the sister's attitude, and some sisters are going along with that and saying, yes, that's right. And others are saying, you know what, I'm tired of this. No, both of them are wrong. Here's why. Some sisters are saying, I don't want to be strong anymore. Well, you're still going to have to be resilient because you're an adult. You don't have to be a man. You just got to be an adult. And that calls for resilience. That's for adults. It's not just for men. That's for any woman anywhere, period, except the most luckiest, except for the very luckiest of women and the spoiledest of women. The most spoiled, and most human beings will not be that. Sorry, it ain't gonna happen. You ain't got to be strong like your husband. You just got to be resilient when times are tough because he gonna go through it. God ain't going to spare either one of you from the test of hardship. He promised he would test with hardship and ease. That's two tests. And other sisters on the opposite end sitting up and saying, yeah, that's right. She got an attitude. She tough. Oh, boy, we know what the hell your dumb ass means, too. And so they're getting caught up in this dumb stuff. Well, see, you didn't realize this, but that statue actually has a connection to the diasporan conflicts that I address in FBA, from FBA to FBAA on my Buy Me a Coffee channel, the Jet Black Air Lounge. And we keep missing this, so I have to say this again and again and again. Because we hard-headed and because we don't spread the information that I tell you. We need to, but we don't. So let me give a shout out to Anubis, contractor, Geechee. Um, God, I forgot the name of the other one, and I'm sorry about that. It's something to do with St. Louis. The name has something, but you know who you are, and I really appreciate you you all sharing my message. Don Calypso, you've been sharing it on Facebook to the Mamiya Obsidian Ali's group. I really appreciate that from the bottom of my black heart and from the depths of my black mind. I really do. Malika Mebani sometimes been sharing it. Then he comes through on Cash App too. As Jock does that. Galen Knight comes through on Cash App, especially when I go live. So I appreciate you all supporting in any one of these ways. You guys do take this message and you do spread that as much as you possibly can. And y'all need to go listen to Contractor. You guys keep missing this particular mark, though. When it comes to the conflict between the different black nationalities, the arguments, the name calling, false accusations, even, all that dumb stuff, what a lot of you miss is that this serves the interest of mainly two types of black women: the Westernisha and the Westernized sister on the continent, most of whom can be traced to one particular region of a particular nation, but that's spreading. They're the ones that actually are served the most because, see, while they're telling us to not only delineate but divide ourselves based on purely nationality, when the fact is it has been into black international cooperation that's always made the biggest changes. That's a fact. Don't forget, Malcolm X's mom was from Grenada. But you're going to say he ain't ADOS? Oh, his dad's ADOS. Okay, cool. Do you think his mom's experience was different from what ADOS or FBA women experienced at that time because she came up in one of the islands? There was one major experience. In Grenada, they were the majority, still under the dominion of the white folk. In North America, we were a minority, still under the dominion of white folk. They had plantation patrols in the islands, and they had the KKK in North America about the same time. That's what the F that was. So while they're telling us as men to divide ourselves and fight, I got the valuable information that I'm going to be putting on the Jet Black Air Lounge from somebody from the continent. We cooperate. We're up here trading information. And I done set up here and said this, and that's what I appreciate about Red Black Sigma in the Philippines. He set up and said, you know what? No, we're going to get with these men and tell them what's going on because I can see a problem in the Philippines developing. And he's right. And you brothers that have been in Thailand, instead of chasing tail, what you need to be doing is hollering at some of your buddies that are Thai men and saying, listen, this is what's coming down the pike. I told you all this years ago, and now I said this back in 2019, I remember, and now fear the huck we are. 2025, it ain't even halfway through yet. And in 2025, they're changing in Thailand, which means they've already changed a lot in the Philippines. Which is going to mean that the more exposure to the English language you have there, the sooner it's going to become next. KL, Kuala Lumpur, Sarawak. Then after that, probably Cambodia. Then after that, Laos, Vietnam. That's what you're going to be looking at. You're going to be dealing with that. And that's probably going to be done by 2028. I could see it spreading 2025, this time of year 2027, and then by 2020, by New Year's Day 2028, it's going to be a wrap. I mean, as it is, you got women in war zones that you think would be grateful, and their asses ain't grateful. Don't believe me? Ukrainian women leaving the Ukraine and partying in clubs to find men that are not Ukrainian. But if you're a Ukrainian man and they find you outside the country, they're gonna look at you like, well, what the F you doing outside the country? Used to be back in the Ukraine getting shot up by the Russians. Like, they really are sitting up looking at you like, why? You think it was just sisters? No, bro. No, Ukrainian women are like that. Oh, they'll treat you and me well. We're not Ukrainian. Be a Ukrainian man. They act like your job is to be getting killed by the Russians until you're her son and then you get picked up. Oh, then it's different. Then it's something else. But, see, that's the funny thing about it. A lot of women think that the men are supposed to get up and just go rush into death until they have sons. A lot of women just have that mindset, oh, it's your job, and then they got a son. Wait a minute, it's not just your job to suffer. I mean, you will suffer in life, but that's not your purpose in life. Oh, now I got a purpose greater than suffering. So what happens if human beings got together and created a male in a lab? He had no mom. Is his job to suffer now because he ain't got no mom to advocate for him? F out of here. So back to what I was saying, last thing, while these sisters are sitting up here telling us that we need to be divided based on nationality when that doesn't work, let me tell you what's really going on. These sisters are not sitting up here delineating or dividing themselves really based on nationality. That's not really what they're doing. Trust me, I told you, when they're in these women's spaces, that's not what they're doing. You know what they're doing? They're dividing themselves based on attitude. That's what's happening. They want you and me to be divided based on our passports, where our parents are from. They want me to look at Israel, young lion, as a tether. He's not. Not even by the definition intended by people who use the word tether is he a tether. But they want me to automatically look at him as though he is, because he lives in the United States, but his parents are from one of the islands. And so that makes him technically an African American, but he ain't FBA. So they want me to look at him. No, I'm not doing that. They want me to look at him like he did something wrong by speaking to me in English. No, I'm not doing that. He was born where he was born. That's where he was supposed to be born. He didn't choose that. He grew up where he grew up. He didn't choose where his parents raised him. He had to live where his dad could earn a living, or where his parents could earn a living. Whose fault is that? He doesn't sit up and tell us how to be black, although we do need to have a code as to how you cannot be. But he didn't sit up and tell us how to be, and I'm not telling him how to be and that sort of thing. I'm not doing any of that stuff. And he's not. But trust you me, we could sit up here and talk all this mess, bro, I'm telling you. And this is something that was actually shown in that movie Sinners, when you think about it. It was shown in Sinners. They are not going to be divisive based on nationality. For them, they're going to be divisive based on attitude towards us. Are you a misandrist or not? If you are a misandrist, you got problems with these men, you diminutize men, you use them, you waste their time, you brag about it. Girl, you one of us, come on over here. We're going to take notes from you if you do a good enough job at using these men and draining them. Girl, is your man stressed? Oh, girl, you put a head of gray hair on him in 8 years. Come sit down. We'll give you a podcast, Michelle Obama. I felt like a married single mother. Bitch, I met single mothers. You in the White House moving your mama in. I felt like a married single mother. Of course your husband was busy having to fly around a lot of times. It was a part of his job. You'd have been pissed if he didn't get it. Now you got Secret Service protection every time you go in and out of that podcast, every time you go in and out of that studio, every time you go home. You got Secret Service with you. Hell, you ain't even got to drive. Secret Service protection at the expense of the government till you pass away because of your husband's sacrifices. You had to go through hard times while he went through them to try to build himself up to this point, and it paid off for him. And now you pissed about the time you didn't have. Well, if you had had all that time to spend with him, Michelle, but he didn't become president because he prioritized you, you'd have been pissed about that. Oh, you could have been president, but you stopped campaigning. It's the misandry by which they define the sisterhood. If Michelle does not feel this way, you know she's under immense pressure to say it anyway. That is what you are facing, gentlemen. They want you and me to be divisive, not know the distinction, but they want you and me to be divisive about these nationalities. It ain't because of reparations. That's not why. And even if it is, that ain't nothing but materialism on their part. It's not so that you get more money, it's so that they get more. And being accurate about who gets what, who is owed how much in terms of reparations is not the problem. But they're not doing any, even when they do the right things, they ain't doing them for the right reasons anymore. We've been seeing that for the longest. It's not about you or me. It's actually, it is about you and me and the money. It's about you and me dying and leaving them with as much as possible. That's what the hell it's about. And you and I sit up here like a bunch of idiots. Trying to make their butts happy. You can't make them happy. You never could. So I'm going to sit up and I'm going to tell you guys now, and I'm letting you guys know now, they are not dividing themselves based on nationality. They don't fiv a guck about any of that. They're dividing themselves based on attitudes towards you. An Angolan woman can sit up and start talking trash about black men, and American sisters will clap for her. Girl, that's right. These niggas ain't fit. A Cape Verdean woman can sit up and start talking talking all that trash. A South African woman can sit up and say, no, all you ninjas want is a yellow bone woman and some beer and some weed. Y'all ain't nothing. Y'all ain't worth nothing. We holding it down. And American sisters will get up and clap. That's right, sis. I feel your pain. But if you and I start talking to the man from South Africa and we start saying, hold up, if you have to pay a lobola, which is a dowry to get married, okay, fine. She needs to come to your door. They need to be they need to be sending people to you to ask you to marry them because they're the ones that are going to collect the lobola for it. You're taking them on as a bill, and on top of that, you're paying a dowry. You're their protector. You're their provider. All of this stuff. You're the one that has to shoulder these responsibilities. And if they do cook and clean, they're going to try to make you feel like they're doing you a hell of a favor for doing it. So let's go ahead and call this what the F it is. You don't do nothing but sell yourself short, even going and asking them and their families for the marriage. And you got to pay the man, shuck this fit. The minute we start having these conversations with these men, these same women that are buddy and chummy with each other on the basis of misandry will then start telling you and me that we don't even need to be having these conversations across nationalities because they got their problems and you got yours. All of a sudden they want to compartmentalize. And I'm not saying that we need to be taking crap from anybody that talks down on us, but that's whether it's a conservative or Republican doing it from within our numbers, or whether it's somebody doing this from across national boundaries and from another nationality trying to tell us we have no culture. Those are the same two things. Because both of them are talking down to us for not being white folk. It's the same thing. Meanwhile, them sisters ain't into none of that. They really ain't into none of that. And I don't want us to fall victim. Sisters learn how to do this stuff because they got it from white women. Oh, come on, sis, we're all women in this, and our men have been doing this, that, and the other. And sister girl fell for that. Yeah, these men ain't no good. These black men come home with no money. Niggas. Got the nerve to want some pussy. They fell for that. Yeah, that's right. Where do we sign up to sell these niggas out for some money? Because we tired of them not having no money. What do we need to do? Kick him out or leave him and go somewhere else? Just have your families without them. We'll give you custody and we'll give you money. But you got to get rid of that nigga. And meanwhile, in the rural counties, when white folks were going for welfare, they didn't have to do none of that. And we arguing about welfare. Well, no, see, white folks were on welfare too, and they had to kick their men out the house. No, they were on welfare and they didn't have to kick the men out the house or leave the men and go somewhere else. They didn't have to do that. Families were allowed to have welfare if they were white in these rural areas. Black families in urban areas or rural were not allowed to have welfare if the man was there. That's what it was. Somehow nobody caught this shit. And now we're debating about it. But because you had that duping going on by Becky of sisters to add numbers to their little feminist movement so they could tell white men what to do, really that's what they want. To be able to tell white men what to do. And since sisters got duped, now they're going to look and say, well, we can't dupe Becky, but what we can do is we can dupe these niggas we never liked anyway. So let's get them arguing about nationality. Meanwhile, we're going to gravitate around whoever the hell is the most misandrous, whether she is a Southern Nigerian that objectifies men financially for money, or a Cape Verdean that says that you're supposed to always sexually tease men, and or a South African that says the exact same complaints about their men as what we've said about ours, or whoever the hell. As a matter of fact, if they got a little accent, put some beads on, and smell like patchouli oil and all this other stuff, but they're misandrous, that makes it even more interesting. Oh, we're going to rock with that. Meanwhile, somebody could be just as ADOS as we are, with the same regional accent as me, New Orleans, Detroit, take your pick. But if she starts talking like men have any value, especially black men, if she starts talking like black men have any value, especially equal to the white man's value, we're going to throw a further mucking fit. She's out the sisterhood. It don't matter where she was born, what her accent is, how far back her roots go in the U.S. on both sides. It don't matter. See, these are different rules going on. These are not the same. And that's why I say, delineation and distinction are they're fine. The division is something else. It don't serve us. And the statute actually illustrates that, even though we didn't make the connection. The arguments they have over the statute are based on two sides trying to extremely interpret a very neutral facial expression. That's where the arguments come from. Sisters thinking they can read into stuff where it's not there. It's hyper scrutiny, it's hyper interpretation. And we fell for that. Kind of. I'm glad actually to see that a lot of brothers decided to sit this one out. The real problem with it isn't really that you just have a statue. It's which statue they picked to put in Times Square and the way sisters reacted. That's the real issue. Accountable Commentary was right about that. It was like Big Bad Keisha up in Times Square. Yeah, that's why they picked it. But sisters did not unanimously say, why the hell does it have to be her? And it was designed, to be an offset to the statues of dead white men. But I mean, you're trying to get, even that argument is trying to get Massa to accept you like he didn't own you at one point. It's not something you can do. Now, every generation that they have gets to determine if they're just a descendant generation of the owners or if they're going to be the former owners themselves based on their attitudes. And they have collectively, by majority, chosen over time, every time, to be the same. Not a descendant generation that became something new. That's an individual thing. Collectively, they've decided every single time, we're going to be Massa too. And we sitting up here trying to get, that's the thing, sisters still trying to get recognition from them. And we black men have decided, and we sat up and said, no, never mind. I mean, recognition is fine, but you know what? If they don't make Juneteenth a federal holiday, screw them anyway. F them. And there's bigger fish to fry than just that one particular holiday being made a national holiday. It ain't about them no way. It's our holiday. If they don't recognize this FBA flag or these FBA flags with which we come up, screw them anyway. It ain't up to them. It's not about them. And sisters that are like, okay, Massa, could you recognize this? Could you put your stamp on this? Could you? And we sort of look at them like, you still running to him. He's still your Massa. And they click up based on how much they hate you, and you want to sit up here and let them dictate to us how we supposed to fight about nationality or anything else for that matter. And that's why it is, frankly, gentlemen, by now you ought to be conditioned. You should be conditioned that as soon as a sister with that big old nigger forehead and the melanin count and the nose and the lips and the 4C hair raises her voice to talk about what men need to do, you should be automatically turned off by now. Because they might even make a valid point, but they're not going to make it for a valid reason. That should be enough to just turn you the uck off and just be like, nah, man, shuck this fit. Sick of this. I don't even want to hear what you got to say because your valid points ain't even for valid reasons. They're not telling you to be men and be responsible and providers because that's your job as a man. They're telling you to do that so they can be spoiled as children. And that leads me to my last point. You start looking at this paternity testing that's going on, the debates that's going on. Shout out to BGS. He showed us the one that's going on in Botswana and then what they were talking about in China. I'm telling you now, straight up, if a woman's got a problem with that, and she has a problem with it as a policy that's nothing personal, if that's what her issue is, I'm telling you now, that's a hoe. That's an adulteress. You see, an innocent lawyer might defend an adulterer or a thief by saying that they didn't commit the adultery or the theft, but it is the thief or the adulterer that will defend the theft or the adultery in the first place. And that's what these women are. These women talking about, oh my God, why should we have, okay, you a nasty bitch. If you never cheated and you sitting up here saying that there should not be any there should be no verification of paternity, but you don't cheat on your husband, you're protecting the bitches that do. That makes you an adulterer at heart. Or adulteress at heart. That's what the hell it makes you. You want women who do this stuff to get the F away with it permanently. And you want the men of the victims to have to raise someone else's kids permanently. We are not the same. You bank stitch. Why do I mention this? I talked about that a little bit before in this recording. I mention this because, frankly, what I was talking about is the attitude. If you have these sisters that are sitting up here delineating themselves and dividing themselves based on having a sisterhood based on and social acceptance based on misandry against you, and you got the ones that aren't really into they're not loud, they're not mean, they're not aggressive, but you got them sitting up here trying to defend the feminist. I'm telling you that the reason they're trying to defend the feminist are because they are feminist. And if they're trying to defend the misandrist, it's because they're misandrists. That's what the hell that's about. Just like the ones that try to defend the adulteresses and the thieves. And so when you have these women talking about what men need to learn how to do, take Minnie F. Baby as an example. She was the one I was going to use. When you have these women telling their own sons, as a man, especially when they repeat that shit, or they growl a little bit when they say it, as a man, know that what they're trying to do is they're trying to teach their sons to accept being cheated on and raising other men's kids and being protectors and providers to a bunch of adulterous bitches. That's what it is. Minnie F. Baby has skits like that where she's talking to her own son, talking all that stuff. No. See, as a man, pardon my French, shut the fuck up, Minnie. She might even be doing this, playing a character as rage bait, because she got a bunch of posts with this stuff. I will post her confessions like they are 100% proven because they're still confessions. But she will sit up and say the things she set up and said to Big Facts podcast that really got us heated, and I covered that. Or the things she will tell her son, I guess that's her son, in a skit. She will tell him the same thing as a man, that's your job. Not because it's his job as a man. No, because she doesn't have a job as a woman. She'll tell you she does not have to do anything. She'll tell you, I play games. I pick men and ain't never had no baddie before. And she ain't really the baddest. I mean, in terms of the Gulf Coast, and I can tell by her accent that's where she's from. Yeah. She's probably one of them, but in reality, no, she's not. But she will sit up there and tell her son. And why is she telling her son that? Because in a nutshell, she knows what she is. If she could, and she's written confessions like this before. If she can, she will use men to take care of her kids by other men. And she wants her son to be one of those men that can be used. I kid you not. She'll take care of him. And she'll use other men to take care of him, but she actually expects him to continue the cycle. Okay, I'm going to let these women use me to take care of other men's kids. That's what you're facing, gentlemen. And that's why I said that when a black woman starts talking about what a man needs to know how to do and what he should be able to do, tune her ass out. She could be telling the truth. You think the truth is the reason she's saying it? Nope. Not even close. And how will you know? Well, one, she's Western. That's a dead giveaway right there. If she's white or black and she's Western, it's about to be some shit. Some hypocritical shit, double standards. Number two, if she's black and Western, you know it's about to be loud and proud hypocrisy and double standards. And then she got that big old nigga forehead. That don't matter, FBA or not. She got that? Now, what's the problem with that? Well, see, I don't really judge people just based on how they look unless they judge themselves based on how they look. And black women in the West, and I don't just mean the USA either. No, this is in the islands too, are masters at judging what behaviors someone is going to display based on their appearance. I shit you not. I can't make this up. Black women in the West who don't even hate you still think that light skin and straight hair are personality traits. I know. A Jamaican woman told my wife at the time and me that my daughter's personality was beginning to show up because you could tell my daughter's complexion, her permanent complexion, and her hair texture. I was like, I don't think and she's a nice woman, but I remember I myself said, I don't think she realized what the hell she just said. See, I don't say that my daughter's going to have a particular set of behaviors based on these things that are phenotypical. I know better than that shit. But no, you know what? She didn't know that. It didn't cross her mind. And this is one of the nicely, she ain't misandrous. She's actually very supportive of her husband when he goes through, last I checked, she's supportive of her husband when he goes through hard times. But she still had that going on upstairs. And so since they do this to themselves, I realize that they're not just doing this to each other. They'll do this to themselves. So what she does is she looks in the mirror and she sees her complexion, her big old nigga forehead, that wide nose and those big lips and that 4C hair, which in and of themselves can be naturally as beautiful or as ugly as any other size nose, lips, or complexion or hair texture. In and of themselves. Do not add to or diminish her worth as a person or her humanity, but she looks and sees these things in the mirror and says, I look like I'll start some shit and say some shit and like I'm going to have an attitude as a black woman, so I better be an attitude and no stereotypical black woman. I look like a hyena monkey, bitch, so I better act like one. So let me growl every time I say as a man. And let me put stuff on their shoulders that's not even fair. Because that's just who the hell I am. Look at me. Since they do this to themselves, gentlemen, don't go and make it your business to try to convince them that they see the wrong thing in the mirror. No, don't do that. Go ahead and judge their behavior the way they judge their own behavior. If they judge their looks as precipitating a particular set of misbehaviors, then you go ahead and do the same thing and just say, well, I knew you were going to do that. What you mean you knew? How did you know? Don't say, well, it's because of your features. Just say, I knew you were going to do it because I know how you view yourself. You made the decision to do this based on your features because you think those features go hand in hand with misbehavior. So if you think that, what the hell am I supposed to think? They're your behaviors. I just happen to know the criteria by which you determined and by which you selected them. Congratulations, you're a good teacher. I hope that what I said helps and benefits. I went long enough, and I appreciate you all bearing with me for an hour. As always, thank you for flying with me here on this jet black aircraft, where the phrase jet black is also a verb. Keep jetting black with me till the wings and the wheels fall off. Gender, justice, forever.